watching Mrs. K's Healthy Eating channel, and we're here to help you to eat well and get cooking. Hi, welcome everyone. Welcome back to my kitchen. Today what I'm going to do is I'm always on the lookout for healthier recipes, and I've been dying to make a courgette loaf. So I've got hold of one of Mary Berry's recipes, which I'm going to slightly tweak, and I'm going to make a courgette loaf, which is a much healthier recipe. First of all, it uses oil, which is our healthier unsaturated fats, rather than margarine or butter. And I'm always looking out for recipes with oil because I know how much healthier they are. Plus, this one uses buckwheat flour. Now, that's very unusual in a cake recipe, but there's buckwheat flour and combined with plain flour, but I'm not going to use plain flour today. I'm going to use spelt white flour instead. I did have some in my store cupboard, so otherwise I would probably have used plain white flour. And if I was making it again, I think I will experiment with wholemeal flour, just to see what the texture's like. But for today, I'm going to stick with white spelt and buckwheat flour. Now, before I ever start baking, I always line my tins. So this one I've already lined, and the recipe calls for, it's quite a big recipe actually, it calls for 2-pound loaf tins. So what I've done is I cut my greaseproof paper. So I laid it on the paper and cut exactly the size of the bottom, and then I will go up the sides. So I've got my paper all nicely ready, and I've taken some bits of margarine that's been left over, and I just line my tin with a bit of margarine first so the paper sticks. Okay, and then I've cut 2 sides, which I'm going to put in there. Takes a bit of time, but it's always worth it because your cakes come out cleanly and neatly. If you just scrunch the paper in, the cakes don't come out very neatly. So there we go, all done. Okay, so my tins are done. Put those out of the way. And of course, next thing is to get the oven ready. And the oven is a 180. Because I have a fan oven, I'm going to put mine at 160. Okay. Now, this recipe doesn't need a cake mixer or anything. So let's get down to it. Now, it's a courgette loaf. We need 350 grams of courgettes, which happens to be 2 medium-sized courgettes. Now, you have to grate them, obviously. Now, I have got a Magimix, and I'm just going to pop them in my grate. I've got my grater in there, and I need a plunger. Where's my plunger? Here it is. So I'm going to quickly whiz these through my grater. Obviously, I washed my courgettes first. And then, there we go. All done and ready. I find a Magimix so useful. I could not do without one. In fact, I've got 2, the big one and a small one. Right, let's get that into a bowl. Okay, in fact, I wonder if I should just, we can put all the ingredients into one big bowl. So I'm just going to, now I've already weighed my courgette. So I'm just going to put my courgettes into my bowl, ready mixed, ready for mixing. Okay, so courgettes in. So that's 2 of my courgettes in there. I'm not going to need my machine again, although I did. When I get to the nuts, I'll tell you what I did do. Right, so we've got courgettes. So measure all the ingredients into a large bowl and mix. Okay, so I've got that. Now what do we need? We need some flour. So I'm going to put my bowl straight onto my digital scale. And if you haven't got a digital scale, I highly recommend one. They are so much easier, and you can weigh everything at once, and you just keep pressing it back to 0 after every ingredients. So let's start with our buckwheat flour. It doesn't even say to sieve it, so I'm just going to put it straight in. So it's 165 grams of buckwheat flour. 165. Nearly there. 165. There we go. Exactly. 165 buckwheat flour and 165 grams. So press to 0 so I can start again, because otherwise I'll be doing arithmetic all morning. Nearly there, 69, so a little bit too much, so I'm just going to take that off. There we go, 165. Okay, so now we have our flour. We need sugar. Right, now this calls for 350 grams of sugar, caster sugar. I'm definitely not using caster sugar, as you may well know from my sugar series, session 6 on the Eat Well Guide series. I try to use healthier sugars. So I have got coconut sugar. I could have used a light brown sugar, which would be a nice alternative actually, because it is a nice dark cake. I could have used golden caster, but actually I try to use coconut sugar wherever I can if the colour of the cake is dark. So I'm going to use coconut sugar, and I'm going to reduce the sugar. I'm not going to use 350. I'm actually going to use 300. So press to 0, and I'm going to pour in coconut sugar, 130. That seems an awful lot of sugar, doesn't it? Right. It's very similar proportions to a Victoria sponge. Okay. So we've got 130. 200. Oh, I can't bear seeing all this sugar. 300. It does make 2 big loaves. Okay. Right. 300. It may affect the heights of my cake, reducing the sugar, because there is a reason for the sugar and flour and butter ratio. Right, okay. So 300 grams of sugar, so I've used less sugar, 50 grams less. And if it works, next time I make it, I might reduce the sugar a little more. Okay, what's next? 3 eggs. I've already done my eggs. These are from my own hens. Only 3 eggs for such a big mixture. I was surprised. A teaspoon. Now let's measure the oil as well. Now it does call for sunflower oil, which I happen to have bought this morning, so I'm going to use some. Right, how much sunflower oil? 275 mils. 275 mils. Okay, so remember to put your jug flat on the surface. 250, 275. Right, I have to, it's not quite exact because the jug measurement doesn't give to you, but it's about right. Okay, so I'm going to pour in my oil. And of course, buckwheat flour, I'm not sure if you know, is gluten-free. So this would be a good cake to convert to a gluten-free recipe, because you could use gluten-free flour for the white flour. So an excellent choice for gluten-free cake. Okay, here's my spoon. So we've got 3 eggs, sunflour, sugar, courgette, plain flour, buckwheat, baking powder. Baking powder is 1 teaspoon. Remember, always measure it accurately. 1 teaspoon of baking powder, bicarbonate of soda. I forgot to take that one out. Bicarbonate of soda over here. Now, remember, bicarbonate of soda can be very lumpy. I do not like to add bicarbonate of soda into anything without sieving it first, because bicarb can be very lumpy, and if you get that lump in your cake and it hasn't been mixed in properly, somebody's going to get a very big, there we go, all done, a horrible taste in their mouth, because bicarbonate of soda leaves a very nasty taste. Okay, so we've put in our bicarb. Now, lovely addition, cinnamon. Now it says 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. Because I love cinnamon so much, I'm actually going to double it up. Because there are 2 loaves here and I do love the cinnamon flavour. So I'm going to put in 2 spoons of cinnamon instead of 1. Now, it's raisins and walnuts. Okay, so what I've done is I've got sultanas. I prefer sultanas to raisins. So I'm going to put sultanas in, but I've not used all sultanas. I've used some chopped figs, dried figs, because we know that figs are high in calcium and it'll give it a nice texture. And also, because I've reduced the sugar, dried figs are very sweet, and so some of that sweetness will come through with the figs. Now, optional is to put in walnuts, chopped walnuts. What I did to chop my walnuts is I popped them in my Maggi mix and put them on a pulse. I did that before the courgette. So I've got my walnuts all ready. There we go. Just take a spoon. Now we want to work, we don't want to leave this sitting around because the baking powder will start working as soon as there's liquid around, which is from the oil in the eggs. Now this is supposed to make a batter rather than a normal cake mix. So this is quite stiff, you can see. It's quite a stiff mixture to mix. And you can see why it couldn't go in a cake. There's no way you could put this in a cake mix, a Kenwood, or use an electric whisk. You have to do it by hand. So coat everything well. So and mix well to make a thick batter. Well, this is almost thicker than a batter, I would say. Right. Okay. I don't know if the eggs, just said 3 eggs, didn't say particularly large eggs. I'm not sure that this is thin enough. It certainly is a thick mixture. Wow, look at that. Okay. Very much a sweetened, healthy ingredient cake with the courgette, the raisins, the nuts. You could put seeds in here, you could put chia seeds in. It's always good to tweak your recipes. I actually think this is too thick. I'm going to add another egg. My eggs were quite small, so I'm actually going to add another egg to mine. I've got my lovely, actually I've got some eggs here. Now, I'm going to put that in my egg bowl. I always like to crack my eggs into a separate bowl, just in case there's shells. There we go. I'll just need to wash my hands, because after touching eggs, one should always wash hands. So I'm just going to do that quickly. That's why I had my eggs ready, so that I wouldn't have to break my baking with washing hands, but never mind. My eggs are quite small, so... Right, okay. I just think the batter needs to be a little bit more. That's better, much better now. So just bear that in mind. If your mixture is too thick, just add another egg. I would not want to add more oil. I'm much happier with that. That's more of a batter. So mix that egg in well. And we're ready to put it in our tins now. And you can either have it plain, you could put a lemon glacé icing on, or you could make a cream cheese icing, which is like what I do for my carrot cakes. And I think that's what I'm going to do with this cake. Right, so let's measure into our tin. Right, here we are, ready. Okay, now, use my spoon perhaps. Let's pour them into the cake tins. I needed a big mixing bowl because it is quite a large mixture actually. I'm really excited about this cake. See, and I've got friends coming round for tea today, and so I'm going to serve this cake, which will be really nice. And of course it makes two, so either one to give away or one to pop in the freezer. Right, here we are. Scrape the bin now. I always scrape my bowls better in the tin than in the sink. Okay. Right, lovely golden colour. And that will be from the sugar. Okay, the tins are quite only half full, so I'm intrigued to see how this is going to rise. And there we go, let's pop them in the oven. Okay, so that is going to cook for an hour. Right, so I'm going to set my timer for an hour. Alexa, timer for 1 hour, please.
1 hour, starting now.
Right, I shall go now and wash my hands, clean down my surfaces, and I'll see you in an hour with hopefully some nicely baked courgette loaves. I'll see you later. Right, welcome back. The cakes are now baked and they've cooled down and they've come out really well. Not that high, but I did warn you that perhaps with spelt flour it's slightly heavier, and also I used less sugar, so probably not as high as it could be. But I'm very happy with that. Here's one I've put onto a tray, and I've made some cream cheese frosting. Now what I've done is I've taken 300 grams of the full fat cream cheese, and I do advise to use the full fat, and I have put in 100 grams of Billington's unrefined icing sugar, the golden icing sugar. And as you can see by the colour, it's absolutely fine. It looks almost white. Now, the recipe is supposed to have 100 grams of margarine or butter as well, but I tried it with just cream cheese and the icing sugar, and it's worked just as well. I don't know why we have to use the butter, so it cuts out all that saturated fat. Now, when you mix them together with an electric whisk, use an electric whisk, it is better. It behaves a bit like cream. When you first mix the icing sugar and the cream cheese, it's very runny and you think, oh crumbs, how's that ever going to go on my cake? But actually keep mixing because it behaves a bit like whipped cream and it gets nice and firm. So you can see I just dolloped some of this cream cheese on here, and I just thought I'd show a quick, very simple decorating idea. I just swizzle the fork along here just to add a little bit of, a tiny bit of sophistication to our cake. And that is what I'm going to serve my visitors with this afternoon. So let's take a slice and see how well this has turned out. Sharp knife. I'll get one from here. I'll use my bread knife. Right, okay, let's go. Let's slice. Beautiful. Full of raisins and nuts. And you can see it's all held together. A lovely colour. That is perfect. So, I wonder what the... it's a lovely... That definitely the caramelly flavour of the coconut sugars coming through and a bit of the cinnamon. So I hope you'll join in and make one too. And yes, thumbs up. I hope you'll subscribe to the channel and enjoy making lots more healthier food with me. Take care. Bye.